Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Coach by Alison podcast and also YouTube video. And I'm very excited to be introducing to you one of my special guests. She's a friend, but also I've been able to do some business stuff with her as well. And I'm going to introduce to you Nicole. So, Nicole, there's a bit of a long story behind it, but I won't get into it too much. But I'll get Nicole to actually introduce herself and what she does, and then we'll get into the actual content. So, Nicole, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole and I am a flow-based life and business coach. And primarily the work I do is to support women, particularly high-functioning women, in unlocking their personal power through understanding their human design, their unique skill sets, and then leveraging that to create results in their life with more ease. And I work with high functioning women in who are entrepreneurs in the business space, but also everyday women who just want to elevate and get to know themselves on a deeper level, as well as to step into more authenticity in their day-to-day life as well.
Love that. Thank you for introducing yourself. It's very clear what you do and who you help. And though that is like a lot of what you do, I want to get into a lot of like the maybe the other side that you do show like snippets of it, but maybe not a lot of people are aware of. But it's like the health and fitness side and how that actually impacts you on a day-to-day basis, and your experience of getting into health and fitness. So we're kind of going to kind of build that story around like where you started and what got you into fitness in the first place, and then we'll get into what you do now. But yeah, like what got you into health and fitness in the first place?
Yeah, so I initially was not very athletic at all. I was actually very overweight in high school and I struggled a lot with body image and self-confidence. It wasn't until about, a few years out of high school, maybe 3, 4 years, that I started to go on a healthier self-acceptance journey as well as a fitness journey. And it began with, I think a lot of girls would get this. It began with a lot of um, restrictive dieting and doing way too much cardio and eating very bland food to the point where I did lose weight, but I hit a plateau. And then from there, I joined a gym. I hired a personal trainer and I haven't stopped having a personal trainer since. And it's been maybe 3 or so years since that journey. And that's probably when I got out of my plateau and began really taking my self confidence, my fitness journey, my mental health journey so much more seriously. And I also, in the last 3 years, had gone from sort of just your novice, like everyday uh, gym girly to stepping into powerlifting as well as my sport or athletic outlet, I guess.
Yeah,
That's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
love that. Again, like very short and also very clear. I'm curious. So you said it was like 3 years ago, but when did you start like trying to actually try lose weight and all that? Like, do you remember like what age you were, what year you were in?
I think I was in like year 11 or 12 in school. That was when it really hit me that I was just not happy about my body. I was the heaviest I'd ever been. And I think it was year 12 formal that I was like, oh, I just want to look good for my year 12 dress. And then that sort of set off more consciousness around, oh, I think I can actually do this, and just trying anything that I knew at the time. I wasn't very educated, um, but I just did what I could. And that was sort of the beginning. And I think it was only in the second kind of era of my fitness journey when I hired a PT and really got invested in understanding how the body works, understanding how strength gains work, that I feel like I really got to take it into my own hands a lot more thoroughly, if that makes sense.
That makes sense because like once you
Yeah.
have the knowledge, it really helps. With
Yeah.
that tea process, like was that something that as soon as you had the idea, you were like, okay, I'm going to do this, or was it like over time, like, oh, maybe I'll get a PT, and then something like kind of held you back, but then eventually you were like, okay, I think I need to do this. Like, what was your experience around that and getting like the help? Because it takes a lot of courage to ask for help.
Yeah, I think for me, that journey of starting with a PT, like I said, I didn't have a PT right away. I had a lot of reservations around hiring a coach.
Mm,
That journey sort of coincided with my personal growth journey where I had started a business not long after university. And I had hired business mentors and joined coaching programs that showed me the power of self-investment and asking for help. I think culturally, I had a lot of stigma around asking for help. I had a lot of like thoughts about coaches are a waste of money and self development isn't really like effective, a lot of those kind of limiting beliefs. And it wasn't until I actually tried for my personal growth, my business growth, and experienced the coaching space and how quickly you can get places with the right support
yeah.
that I was like, well, why wouldn't I do it for my health? And it sort of just made sense at the right time. And then my partner is also a PT. He never forced PT on me, which is wonderful. He kind of let me grow into it. But I think just being surrounded by people and environments where like people cared about their health, which wasn't my upbringing at all, that also triggered like that curiosity of I want to know what it would be like. And I remember having an ultimatum as well. I was like, if I don't enjoy it after like 6 months, I'm not obligated to continue. I'm not going to force myself to lock in. And mentally that created some safety for me to try.
Mm. Wow, that's awesome. And the fact that you actually gave yourself 6 months as well, to see the changes or to actually give it a good shot. Because it's not like, oh, I'm just going to try for like 4 weeks. It was actually genuinely like a 6 month block, which is half the year. And like that's enough time to actually get proper sustainable change. And so kind of let's get into the like, you've always had a coach since the 3 years, like for the 3 years now. Have you stayed with the same coach or like have you gone from one coach to another? Like, what was your experience around that, and what have you actually learned? We'll get into that a bit later, but like, yeah, the coaching side of it.
Yeah.
Who did you go with?
Yeah, so I have jumped from coach to coach multiple times. I think with coaching, you'd be lucky and really blessed if your first coach is your only coach. But I've learned the value of not judging as well and not attaching. So I've realized that for some of the coaches that I had, it was circumstantial, like they were moving or the schedules didn't line up. For other coaches, it was preference. It was me realizing that the coaching style wasn't working or the dynamic just wasn't there. And I don't think I knew what I wanted or needed until I had worked with like a coach long enough. So it's not like I just you stick with one and that's all, or you try all of them right away. I think it was like that awareness of what actually serves me. And the longer I was in the coaching space in general, the more that I was like, this is how I communicate. This is the style that works for me. And funnily enough, I've never worked with female coaches, but I haven't really seen it to be an issue for myself just yet. But as for business, like I've never worked with a male coach. So a lot of my coaches tend to be female, but some of them have a very masculine approach too. So I think in the personal training sense, I've always sort of gravitated towards coaches and their styles and the styles that are more fluid rather than black or white. And I've been coached before, like as like a one-off, those like when your coach can't show up, you get like an alternate coach. I've been coached sometimes with coaches that I didn't choose, but they just filled in. And I instantly was like, this is not working because it was it's an approach that I could distinctly feel wasn't working for me. But I don't think we have that awareness of what's working for us until we try it until we're in it.
100%. Like you have to try it to be able to know if you actually mesh or can actually have that relationship with a coach. Because yeah, there's
Yeah.
different coaches out there. There's so many different coaches out there, and the styles are all different, and like we receive information all differently. So it's all comes in together, and just make sure that you're aware at the end of the day, but you have to try it at the end of the day. So let's get
Yeah.
into like, the nutrition aspect of it. And then we can go into the training and then a bit of mindset. So I kind of break down things into three different pillars. So nutrition, training, and mindset. Mindset does interlink between like nutrition and training. But for you, uh, what would be like the biggest nutrition struggle you've had and that you've been able to overcome through like the education, the coaching, and just your own, I guess, exploration of nutrition? What would that be for you?
For me, I think my biggest nutrition struggle was always my sweet tooth because I love desserts. I love everything about it. And the struggle around that was definitely connected to my childhood and always finding a lot of comfort in food, particularly in like the harder seasons in my life. And then even as I'd kind of become educated and understood about like all the things to do with your health, basically, how sugar affects you, calories, all of that. Even with that understanding, I think my this battle of like curbing, those impulses or those desires has definitely shown me that it roots deeper than just the nutrition. Like, I think that for me, what I'm noticing recently and what I've been telling my coach is that I don't think I realize how much of my identity is still in the past when it comes to dessert and like treats. And what I mean by that is I realize that I still think like I'm in a like in what do you call that? Like I still think like I'm not who I am today. I think as if I'm in the mindset of the me that was before. And I think food has that emotional pull for a lot of us. And if we don't really acknowledge the emotional pull, we can find ourselves doing things or behaving in a certain way that maybe isn't in alignment to our goals now. And so, yeah, learning about those identity attachments and understanding where maybe my um, cravings or impulses for sweet things or desserts are actually coming from like just emotion and needing food to fill that void
Mm.
versus like actual desire of the food.
Yeah, I feel that. That is like very common, especially with the women that I work with as well. And even for myself, like it does have a
Mhm.
very big emotional side to it. And I think that's kind of why it becomes kind of like the one of the last things we address. So like the training side is like great, we do that really well, and then the nutrition is a little
Yeah,
bit more of a struggle because
it's
of
true.
yeah. So
Because I feel like training is like it's like easy to act, just like with any change. It's like it's easy to do your way out of anything and doing makes you feel productive. But like I think nutrition reflects a lot into your identity and your self-concept. And it's not so easy to do your way out of it. It's like you can really fall into like a spiral and not really know why in your nutrition. Whereas like with training, a lot of people will just train more and but they always say you can't out train a bad diet. And so I think that that's that loop that I think it's holistic to deal with it on an identity level.
yeah. I agree. And I think also like with the training aspect of it, because it's like when you put the effort of the training in and you're like, okay, like this is my training program, I'll follow it through. And within that 45 session, you're done. Or 30 minute, 45 an hour, 2 hours,
Mm,
however long it takes for you to do. Like it is completed, it's done. And to you, you're like, okay, like I've done the training task today, and that's ticked off. But then with nutrition, it's a
yeah.
very slower process. Like you track your food, or
Yeah.
you're mindful of your food, but you don't really see that until maybe like a month from now, or
Yeah.
6 months from now. It's very slow in that sense. Like you don't actually see the change.
Yeah.
It's the actual,
Yeah.
yeah. So I can see why it would also be um, that training will you'll shift your identity quicker because you're like, okay, I trained 3 times this week, I'm better at it this week. But the nutrition side is like,
Mhm.
yeah, okay, I track my food, or
Yeah.
I did macros, or I did this, but I'm not really seeing that much. So it would be harder to kind of
Yeah.
nutrition mindset. So going into the the training aspect of it, what would you say uh was your biggest struggle with the training? Because you did mention like different things, but I would like what would be the biggest one when it comes to training that you struggled with and then that you were able to overcome as well?
Mhm. With my training, I think there's two, and they're kind of blended. For me, it was the body confidence and just confidence in general to be able to like walk into a gym, to wear a sports bra, to feel comfortable in my own skin, and to feel proud of my results and like all of that stuff. And then there's also the level of like becoming an athlete. So like I said, I was always like the biggest girl, the last picked, and in school that sort of became my identity, and I think I carried that into like the rest of my life until I became aware of it. And when I had started powerlifting, I didn't realize it was actually creating a new identity in me, that I am an athlete or I can be competitive. And because for me, training was such a struggle in the beginning, I realized that it was because I was looking at it through the lens of training is punishment and training is something that I have to like endure and push through because of that like body image situation or the body confidence thing. It was sort of like something I would dread and force myself to do, which I feel like is a lot of people's relationship with training. But it wasn't until I was like, hang on, like I can be competitive if I want to be. I can be like, I can enjoy this process. Like, who said it had to be terrible? And I sort of began to unlock that like connection to just, again, the identity shift as well as the training component. And I've learned to love the struggle. So, the struggle of like um when you just don't feel like going in and then you go in and it feels good,
Yeah.
like for me I was like I actually love that feeling, and I had to stop and acknowledge that I love that feeling when I feel that the rush after doing my first set or after walking out of the gym doors, just like lingering in that moment and staying in that feeling. It's like, oh, I love this, I'm going to give this to myself more often. That to me was definitely something I overcame, and my body confidence sort of grew the more that I challenged myself as well physically to wear what I wanted, and to remind myself that like nobody really cares. Like they're not looking at you. They couldn't care less about you. They have their own insecurities. Like the gym is full of people with insecurities, and that's why we're all there. But at the same time, it's learning to use the insecurity as like just a mirror rather than a like the motivator, because I think that's part of how I learned to love it, because I wasn't no longer using insecurity as like the fuel for why I was doing it. I was like, no, I love myself so much that I'm going to do it. Not, I don't love myself. I hate myself. And that's why I'm going to. So changing that punishment, you know, sort of mentality to an expression of self love, an expression of taking care of my health and my future well being, my kids' well being. And yeah, that relationship internally really affect training.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's such a it's a very vulnerable thing to actually share that, because it does come from like a deeper place than just like your physical and how you look. So I really appreciate you opening up and sharing that. Um, you did mention on that mindset as well. So like you did mention the nutrition, the training. Like what would you say was the biggest shift in your mindset overall in your past 3+ years of you going through your health and fitness journey?
I think the biggest mindset shift would have been that we're not tied to just one version of ourselves. I think the version of ourselves that so many of us spend our whole lives running away from or avoiding or whatever is like the version of ourselves that existed in childhood. At least that's what a lot of my story with health and fitness kind of comes down to. I think for so long I carried the identity of like, I am a big girl. I will always be a big girl. I will always struggle to lose weight. I will always hate training. I will always binge. And like, it's like, those are conscious choices that I affirm every single day. I actually unintentionally choosing to believe those things about myself every time I don't choose to do something differently or choose to believe differently. And I think that the biggest lesson I mean, there's so many, like we said, right? But the biggest lesson is that, like, yes, you carry the same body with you and the same brain with you everywhere you go, but the identity gets to change, and you're the person who's capable of creating that change. And I don't think it has to be as crazy and intense and painful and struggle and full of struggle as you think. I think that you get to make it fun by the way that you mindfully change the language. Like, I'm not punishing myself. I actually love myself. And those things like that you say to yourself about food, like, I feel so bad that I ate that. I'm so dumb, to like, I'm so grateful that I can eat, and these like mindful shifts, I think they're all our responsibility, but we just need to slow down enough to make the connection that we're the creators of our experience and our relationship with our health and food and fitness.
Yeah, that's so true. That is definitely so true. I would love if like a lot of my clients kind of listen to this and just reflect, and that slow down thing as well, like I've noticed for myself and just like the people around me, like when you do slow down, it doesn't have to mean like you spend a whole day, like literally 24 hours, writing on your journal. Like that's not what slow down actually means.
Mm,
From my understanding, it literally just means, are you actually reflecting on like what you're doing and like your
mm,
thought process or where you're at? Like, are you reflecting on what is going well rather than just looking
mm,
at everything that's going wrong? Because I do find, again, like I think a lot of women find themselves beating themselves up on like, oh, I didn't do this right, I didn't do this perfectly, didn't do this, like all the didn'ts and the it should have,
mm.
rather than focusing on like what is going well and what you can improve on because you've been able to do this. So there's a lot
Yes,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I will add, like, I mean, the work that I've been doing with women, like in my in body programs, in my business coaching programs, a lot of it does come from like that programmed way of looking at everything. Program that says focus on what isn't there, focus on what is lacking, focus on what is not. Even when there's a billion and one things that are actually going right, it's like you are programmed to actually focus on the nothingness of like, and feel scarce and feel bad, because for many of us the feeling bad is what's actually driven us to do stuff, and we think that's a good thing because it's like, oh, it's productive, it's the reason why. And I think I see that a lot in like the hustle mentality of like, you use hustle, you use scarcity to push yourself to do things, but there's other ways to achieve things. There's other feelings that you get to feel in the process of creating something that doesn't have to be struggle, exhaustion, I hate this, and it'll be good when I get there. And I think that's the balance that I feel like it's personally, it's like that mission of mine to restore in women, but in the world. But it all comes down to how we do one thing is how we do everything. And if that's sort of patterns that you see for your clients or in the health and fitness space, it's likely that those patterns are also affecting and creating other areas of their life too. So it's really powerful stuff.
It's so true, and it's very powerful stuff. And so I wanted to kind of finish off on how has like health and fitness impacted you. It's actually the second last thing. How has fitness impacted you with other areas in your life? Because you did mention just then that they're all like interlinked. So how has it impacted you over the years of you doing it?
So it's definitely affected the way that I feel about my personal capacity to change. I think I think when we undergo a drastic, it doesn't even have to be drastic, but any level of physical change or habitual change, we sort of realize that, oh, I can do this. Like, I can do whatever I set my mind to or whatever I set my intention to. And I think that level of confidence and clarity that I've been able to have through like going on a journey, committing to a journey, seeing goals through in both my health and my physical body, it's just shown me that nothing, that everything is fluid. And for me, having things like body confidence allows me to buy outfits that make me feel good, which then allows me to show up on camera when I do my work or when I host events in a different way. And it also affects the way I walk into that room when I feel good about my body and I know who I am and I'm in control of my mind. And then not only that, I feel like it's helped as well with my sense of sort of just like energy, how I allow energy to move through my body because we are made of energy. And if you break every single part of us, our physical bodies down, it's all just like atoms vibrating. So if energy is always moving through us and we are consistent of energy, then we need to be moving. We need to be regulating all the time. We can't be stuck. We can't be stagnant. We can't have thoughts that are just like piling up because there is literally overdrive and our body literally will hit that like stress ceiling where it will collapse or it will begin to disintegrate and kind of you introduce all these chemicals into your body that are like just harming you from the inside out. And I think a lot of the our health, our internal health is created by us and it's permitted by us not being conscious of what we're doing, not being mindful. So I think that holistically being able to like move my body and like having a healthy journey around that helps me with my energy flow, helps me with my focus, helps me to coach the way I do, to feel excited for life and to feel physically capable of like things that I enjoy, like hiking or walking, and not feel like puffed out and, all the things. So, yeah, it's affected me in so many ways.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like there's so many different aspects it does affect you. And I find that like once you have that for yourself, it's so powerful and how it will show up in like other areas in your life. And so
Yeah.
where are you right now? Like what's next or what are you currently working on with your health and fitness goals? So I did see your partner post that you're doing a comp, I think. So yeah, like
Yes.
what are you currently working on at the moment with your health and fitness? And then we'll get into like where people can find you as well. So
Sure. So I'm working on competing in 7 weeks' time at the States powerlifting comp. And this will be my second competition because I did qualifiers a few months ago. That is a strength sort of potential that I don't know I have yet. I'm stepping into new territory, new personal bests, and getting back into the mindset of like powerlifting and strength, which is very neural as much as it is physical. So I'm on the road to that.
mhm.
And the second thing that I'm working on is just being more mindful of how I feel about my body at any given time because the body fluctuates and changes. And I'm learning to detach my identity from a certain weight or a number and learning to just like see it every day for what it is and to like love it fully and thank it for what it gives me.
Mm,
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, I just wanted to also caveat. So a lot of my like girls don't really know what powerlifting is. So powerlifting essentially, in a nutshell, how would you explain it?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I'm like the wrong person to say to ask. It's like lifting heavy things for one rep.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's all
It
it is. So
literally is.
squat,
It's the
bench, and
compounds.
deadlift. That's the
Yeah,
main
squat,
three
bench,
things that they
deadlift.
get tested on, and they're competing against. Is it body weight? Like a certain category
Yeah, weight classes.
weight class.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is essentially what powerlifting is, and that's what she's going to be competing in soon. So that's exciting. I'll keep a watch out on that.
Yes.
But other than that, where can people find you? And you do obviously help women. So where can they find you and the content that you provide? Because you do provide a lot of valuable content.
Yeah, so the best way to find me is to go on Instagram and type in underscore NICOL AAY. Fun fact, that is my high school Instagram username that I never changed, and yet I have built a business with it, and I'm not changing it anytime soon. So proof that you could do anything. But I also have a YouTube and a TikTok and a podcast. All the links to all of those will be in my Instagram link in bio. So that's probably the easiest way to direct you. And if you wanted to kind of get a glimpse into kind of the work that I do, the programs I do in personal development, as well as business mentoring for women, you can check out my website, and it's www.nicoleconception.co. And again, that will be in my link in bio on Instagram. And I also have some free resources which you can find. I'll give Ali all the links and she can pop it into the description. And if you are listening to this and you're sort of curious about just getting into my space but don't know what programs or where to start, or just want to chat to unblock your flow and like realign your life, you can book a free discovery call as well. And I'll give Ali the link to that as well. And that's just a chat with me for 45 minutes. And I can help you get clear on your goals in life, reset, and help you just find more excitement and flow again in your life. Or if you're a business owner, in your business as well.
Beautiful. Yes, I will have all those links in the description. And I appreciate you, Nicole, for hopping on and sharing some valuable information here. Hopefully, you found that very helpful. All the ladies that were able to watch this, and if you watch this all the way through, you're the real one, you're an OG. And I will see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.